Hello again, Knights fans, and welcome to the 8th edition of the 2016 Knights Baseball Roundup. I'm Tom Mead here with head coach Gary Puccio. Coach, you went up to Sacred Heart this past week for what was supposed to be a 4-game series. The weather ended up making it a 3-game series with the Pioneers. You went 1-2, but as it stands, we're in April. You're through 24 games. You're 12-12 on the year and 4-3 in Northeast Conference play. What did you see out of your team overall this weekend?
Yeah, all three games were great games as far as they were all right there. I think we lost 9-6 the first game. We lost 2-0 game two, which was a weird game because it got halted with the bases loaded, bottom of the third, no score, and 2 out. And when we resumed the game, of course, we made an error on the first play, which cost us a run, and we walked in a guy. And those were the only 2 runs they scored, which was kind of our defense allowing them to win that game. Which I told Chris Cashmore, which he tied an NCAA record because he got a loss on a day he never pitched, which is pretty tough to do. Something different, So I told him he's in the record books. Good for him. And but 2-0. I mean, you can't. Chris has pitched great as a freshman. He's done a great job. I mean, I'm very happy with him. And the third game of the series, obviously, Logan's Logan, and even when Logan is not at his best, he's still good enough. And thank God, because he carries us through a lot of W's. So,
looking at that first game of the series, early on, Joe Flack had put some runners on, but was able to work in and out of trouble. Sacred Heart capitalized later in the game, but your offense didn't quit. They came back and ended up making it a 9-6 game before it was over. What kind of fight did you see out of your team?
One of the problems and I talked to the guys about this, is we've had a tendency right now where we score and then let the other team score in the same inning. And I tell them that to create momentum, it's so important that after you score to hold the other team to a 0. And we did a bad job of that until Logan. And Logan had given up a run after we scored and did it twice. And then the third time we scored 3, and he put up a 0, and then it was zeros the rest of the way. And, that's establishing momentum. And I don't think we've done a great job of that this year, that we have a tendency of giving back runs. To go back to Joe Flack, I mean, Coach McKay said to me the other day, and it was such an appropriate line, he says, we got to start calling him the magician, because obviously he's pitching hurt, and you got to respect everything this kid's doing. And yet, hurt or not, this kid manages to keep 3 runs or less every start. I mean, he's now something like 17 out of 22 starts here that he's given up 3 runs or less, and that's a great credit to the kid, because right now he's pitching on just intensity and just toughness. I mean, he's hurt, and he's just plowing it out for us, and I get nothing but the utmost respect for him, because he just finds a way to keep you in the game.
The big bat on Friday was your senior catcher, Pat McClure. He had a home run, his first of the season, and also doubled later on in the game. What did you see out of his performance?
I think Pat's got 16 or 17 RBIs already this year, even though he's only hitting 240 right now. Pat's a gamer. Pat's one of those guys that the bigger the game or the bigger the opponent, the better he plays. I mean, he's always been that since the day. He's my first recruit here, and obviously, I have a little special feeling to him because of that. And he's been a trooper, and he's just a leader. He's just a natural leader of the team, and he steps up when it means something. He always has, and he'll continue to do that the rest of the season, I'm sure.
Now, you mentioned the second game of the series actually was started on Friday, and then it was halted because of lightning. When a game like that picks up, what's your mindset? Obviously, you're thinking about Chris Cashmore and not sending your freshman pitcher back out because of the number of pitches he threw the first day. But is there anything else that goes into your mind about how to approach a game like that?
Yeah, I mean, even with Chris, even during the rain delay or the lightning delay, I was, questioning whether I was going to even let him go out there anyway, because he's a freshman and he's got a great career ahead of him, and I don't like to mess around with stuff like that, because I'm just a believer that one win, is not worth risking a kid's career, especially a kid that you think has that kind of level of talent, and he certainly does. So it makes me hesitate. So I knew right away we were going to have to change pitches the next day. And I talked to Timmy Quinn, who pitched, by the way, outstanding. He did a terrific job for us. The kid has been dynamite out of the bullpen for us. He really has. And, not his fault that we didn't make a play behind him. And he came in and just threw strikes and did what he was supposed to do. So very happy with him.
Moving on then to the second game on Saturday, you had your ace going, Logan Frady, and you mentioned it already. He's big with shutdown innings. What do you see out of him on a day in and day out basis that just makes him that kind of gamer?
I mean, he struggled this weekend. He wasn't sharp. It wasn't the Logan, obviously, of the last 2 weeks who's been absolutely unhittable. And you could tell right from the go he was struggling a little bit. And again, I mean, was that because I'm pitching him the third game and he's out of sync? I mean, that could be part of it. But we had talked earlier that day, and I said, Based on the weather, I didn't know if we were going to get to the fourth game, and then being down 2-0, did I want to risk not pitching him and end up with him not pitching this weekend? So, I talked to him, and one thing about Logan is anytime you tell him, I want you to take the ball, he's more than willing to take the ball. So he was like all for it. And Corey, who was supposed to pitch, Corey Zeller, I told him he would pitch Sunday's game. And, the guys are good teammates. They root for each other, and they take care of each other. And everyone knows Logan's the guy. I mean, if we're going to go anywhere, Logan, I think he's 4-0 already, and he's finally 500 in his career here, which is pretty cool. But I think that was his 10th win of his career, which puts him in like 24th all time or something. So he's obviously our guy, and he's still only a junior. So hopefully we still got him for another year.
Another guy who had a pretty good weekend offensively, he's really starting to heat up a little bit, is Joel Roman. Hit 500 for the weekend, a pair of doubles. Do you see him starting to come out of his slump?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I said to him was, I don't know if he's putting pressure on himself because he has a shot at being the all-time doubles leader at the start of the season. And he talked about that a little bit. And I said, stop thinking about that and start worrying about just getting hits and rebounding. And this weekend he definitely showed signs of starting to come out of it. And, I'm one of these guys that believes when a kid's hit for you for 4 years, I mean, he's a 4-year senior. He's been a starter for me since he was a freshman. So, kids like that, they got a track record, and he's got a track record where he's, either led the team or been second in home runs and RBIs every single year. So, yeah, he's off to a slow start, and I think he's got 1 homer and only 6 RBIs so far. But to me, that means he's got a hot streak coming at some point during the season, and hopefully it's helping us get to the playoffs.
As we look ahead here, you're going to host Siena on Wednesday afternoon for a midweek game. Then you have a big conference series against Bryant this weekend at the Nemoli Family Baseball Complex. What do you expect out of, first, that non-conference series, and then out of the Bryant Bulldogs?
Yeah, Siena, Tony Rossi's the dean of college coaches in Division I in the country. He's the longest tenured coach. I think he's in his 48th year or something as the head coach at Siena. It's incredible. He's my mentor. When I became the coach at Manhattan College, he was the guy I would call about advice and how to do things, and he basically helped propel my Division I career as a coach, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for him, and that's why we play him every year since I've been here. I mean, he's just a class act and a great guy. It's a non-conference game, so I plan to play a couple of guys. Hopefully, Johnny Chalupa is going to start. We're going to try to get him untracked on the mound a little bit because he's coming back from an injury. He hasn't been out for a year, and he's been struggling with his control and his command. So, we're going to give him the ball and try to get him straightened out a little bit, and we'll get a couple of the guys out there that haven't gotten to pitch too much yet. So it's always a good thing with the non-conference games to get some guys who you never know that you're going to need with injuries and everything else. Gives them some time to get some at-bats and the whole bit. So as far as the Bryant Bulldogs, they're the Bryant Bulldogs. They are the best team in this conference year in and year out. That's going to be an uphill battle. They're undefeated. I mean, one of the things I said to the guys is they're not going undefeated all year. Nobody ever does. So they got to lose sometime. So why not let them lose to us?
Another thing we have coming up here is the First Knights reunion, which is scheduled for April 24th, and now it's been expanded to include players through 1966. So it's going to be basically everyone who played under Harvey Woods, who is obviously a legendary coach in the history of FDU baseball. Any other words on that?
Yeah, it's a great thing. That was a great idea. John Pittman decided that let's expand it to include the early 60s guys who all played for Harvey as well. And that gives us a chance to get a few more people out here. So I thought it was a great idea and more than happy to go along with it. I guess that's the Sunday game against Sacred Heart at home. And it gives us a chance, we'll introduce them before the game. It gives us a chance to honor our past and the rich tradition because Harvey was obviously, I think he's second all time in wins here and just did a terrific job. He was the AD and, baseball was terrific here then. So it should be a good day. And you're talking about guys from the 50s coming, and you're talking guys those are guys that played 60 years ago. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to even think about that. We're going to have a few of those guys here, and then the guys from the 60s that played 50 years ago. I mean, it's incredible. And you hear them tell stories to each other. They don't just say, "Yeah, I remember when this guy was up and he got a single of me." It's like, "Yeah, I threw him a 3-2 slider." I mean, it's amazing how they remember every detail. It's great. It's great to see the alums. They've been nothing but supportive with me, and I'm looking forward to the 24th.
Coach, thank you very much for joining us. Fans at home, you can follow the action against Siena live on FDUnites.com. And this weekend series against Bryant will be available to watch live on NECFrontRow.com.